intelligence, single-minded, singly directed towards pleasing Krishna. That's how you can live your life on the platform of, I belong to the category of spirit, not the category of matter. That's pretty simple. That's the first 2 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And then there's an obstacle. Uh-oh. What's the obstacle? The obstacle is I'm trying to live my life in devotion to Krishna, but I'm attached to the fruits of my labor, my activities. Therefore, karma yoga, Sankhya yoga, Buddhi yoga, karma yoga. And when one becomes proficient at karma yoga, guess what? One has less and less and less attachment for the fruits of activity and more and more and more understanding of who I really am because of that detachment from matter and the fruits of material activity. And then comes Jnana Yoga, more focus on transcendental knowledge, and of course the crown jewel is to know who you are. And as one becomes proficient in that practice of yoga, then comes Dhyana Yoga, chapter 6. And when one becomes very proficient in Dhyana Yoga or meditation on the Supreme, there's Bhakti Yoga. So look at that. That's the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, summarized. And then the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is how to live your life in Bhakti Yoga. And there's a lot that one needs to know and a lot that Krishna says about it. Lots of questions Arjuna asks about it. But how to live one's life in devotion to Krishna. Middle 6 chapters. Look at this. We just finished 12 of 18 chapters. So chapter 13 marks the beginning of the final 6. And in those the first chapter 13, Arjuna is basically, it's a review or a graduate study of what he did in chapter 2, or Sankhya in chapter 2. Now there's other divisions of Sankhya in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, but it's expanded in chapter 13. And how the structure of chapter 13 is very simple. Arjuna asks Krishna 6 questions. Matter and spirit, matter and spirit, matter and spirit. He doesn't use that language, but that's the question. Field of activities and the knower of the field of activities. Kshetra and Kshetragya, matter and spirit. Knowledge and the object of knowledge, Jnanam and Gyayam. And Prakriti and Purusha, matter and spirit, matter and spirit, matter and spirit. If you didn't get it, now you get it, because it's like third time around. But in great detail. So how Krishna responds to those matter and spirit questions starts with chapter 13, text number 8 through 12. They're grouped together in the translation. And in that 12, those verses, Krishna is describing what is knowledge. And this word arjavam is our topic for today. It's right towards the very beginning of the items of knowledge. Because one who is in knowledge is simple, as opposed to one that's not in knowledge and then they're complicated or crooked, not straightforward. And therefore, when Prabhupada, it's another place that this word arjavam comes is chapter 16. Chapter 16 is the divine and demoniac nature. So this divine nature comes first in Krishna's description, and Arjavam is right there in the list of divine qualities or godly qualities. Now, simplicity may have some pejorative sense, like somebody's simple-minded. Like it's not a compliment. It's something derogatory. But it's a compliment. You know, for spiritual progress, it's a compliment. Just like humility, persons may poo-poo the humble person. People will take advantage of the humble person, so don't be humble, because people will take advantage of you. So what's the option? Don't be humble. Be proud, and swagger, and no, a Vaishnava is humble, meek and humble, meek and humble. How many times is that expressed in scripture? Meek and humble. It's a virtue. It's the quality of the divine. It's a godly quality. It's the quality of one who is in knowledge, as is simplicity. So simplicity doesn't just mean simple-minded, like dull, but it means straightforward in their ordinary dealings, as opposed to its opposite, crooked in ordinary dealings. And so when Prabhupada was speaking about this quality of simplicity and almost used interchangeably, almost, it's very similar in Sanskrit as well as the translation, is straightforwardness or sincerity. That's certainly a very commonly used word. Sincerity and simplicity are often used interchangeably, at least the English translation of both. Straightforward. And the opposite of being crooked. So that's our topic. And interestingly, I hope you'll be interested, Jiva Goswami writes about it extensively in Bhakti Sandarbha. So some of you are a little bit newer. In case you're in that category, I'll give a little background. Who is Jiva Goswami? Jiva Goswami is one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan means principal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who requested certain devotees, first of all, receive instructions from me, second of all, go to Vrindavan and write books about devotion to the personality of Godhead, Krishna. Write books. So that's what they did. And they had other services they did, along with those other services included restoring lost places of Krishna's pastimes. Because 5,000 years prior was when Krishna performed his pastimes, and where those places were lost. Most of you know the story. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Vrindavan, and one time he went off in a direction and found a pond of water and declared, "This is Radhakund. This is Radhakund," and was in ecstasy, bathing in Radhakund. And then later that place became established as Radhakund because where it was lost to the world so many years later. And through the work of the Goswamis, particularly the work of Raghunath Das Goswami, the Radhakund today was excavated during his lifetime. It's a nice story. Raghunath Das, there was no Radhakund that we know today. It was a puddle of water. But he understood that Lord Chaitanya said, this is Radhakund. This is Radharani's place. And then the glories of Radhakund, the Goswamis are writing about the glories of it. So he stayed there. They made that his bhajan place. And very accomplished people took interest in him because he's such an elevated sadhu. And they wanted to render some service to him. One very wealthy man. Can I render some service? He didn't need anything. He's a renunciate. So Rupa Goswami said, say yes. And the yes is have him build Radhakund. So that's what happened. Jiva Goswami oversaw the construction. Rupa Goswami said, say yes. Raghunath Das takes the credit for establishing Radhakund as we know it today. You know, that whole place, Radhakund and Shyamakund, both. But before it was just so in that way, the places of Krishna's pastimes had been lost. So that was the second, but first and foremost was writing books on the science of bhakti, based upon the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and then researching and having access to scriptural references that would verify Lord Chaitanya's teachings. And that's what they did, extensively. And Jiva Goswami was one of them. So that I'm giving you an explanation of the 6 Goswamis, and one of them was the youngest was Jiva. And Jiva wrote at least three comprehensive commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, because they were all lovers of Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of them was a topic by topic. One of them was like Prabhupada did, verse by verse, called Krama Sandarbha. Verse by verse. Krama means step. Verse by verse. And then another was topic by topic. 6 topics. And one of those 6 topics was Bhakti Sandarbha. So I'm going to go through a little section from Bhakti Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami, where he speaks on this topic, or writes on this topic of simplicity. Don't mind me. I love Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and, the 6 Goswami. So you're going to get, a little Goswami shower today. Particularly Bhakti Sandarbha. Here is a nice teaching when Jiva Goswami wants to write about the importance of bhakti in a simple and straightforward manner. He writes in Bhakti Sandarbha, even Bhakti Abbas. What does Bhakti Abbas means? It means the shadow of Abbas, the shadow of bhakti. There's bhakti, and then there's a shadow of the object or bhakti. Even a shadow of bhakti. That's basically what we're doing, by the way. We're engaged in bhakti, but it's not Shuddha bhakti. It's before Shuddha bhakti. It's Abbas bhakti. Even by Bhakti Abbas, one can destroy all sins and attain the feet of Vishnu, even from a subhuman form. Really? Now, those of you that know Jiva Goswami will know he didn't just make statements out of the top of his head. He says something, and then he supports that something that he says from Scripture. That's the system. In fact, it starts with Scripture, and then he says something. He extracts something from the Scripture and says it, and then there's the Scripture. Here's the Scriptural reference from Vishnu Purana. According to Vishnu Purana, Vishnu Dharma Purana, there was a mouse. And the mouse had a liking for the ghee that's found in the lamp in Lord Vishnu's temple. One time he was drinking ghee from the lamp, and his whiskers caught on fire from the lamp, and his body burned. He's dead, a dead mouse. But in the way that he died, in his next life, according to Vishnu Dharma Purana, he became a queen. And as a queen, she was very simple. Note the word Arjavam. She was a very simple lady. And she just had a lot of liking and great faith in very simple devotional service. So one of the things that she really liked to do was offer lamps to the deity. It's every day. She's a queen. It was very simple service. And at the end of her life, she attained Vaikuntha. Starting from a mouse life form. You know, the little mouse wasn't intending, let me do some devotional service, but it was received by the Lord as some devotional service that entitled him in his next life to become a queen, and in the next life to go back to Godhead. Powerful. So who knows what's going to happen to all of us? We're not mice. We're men, ladies and men. So let's see what happens to each of us. But we should understand there's power, there's potency in bhakti, even the shadow of bhakti. And here's a nice statement, similar statement, same Bhakti Sandarbha, where Parashara Muni speaks, and it's found in Skanda Purana. And you'll see in red letters on the screen there's Kulat Manam, Kutilat Manam. Kutila means crooked. Atmana, the soul that's crooked. Impure fools who are crooked do not develop bhakti, chanting, or remembering of Govinda. So, Abbas, powerful. Crooked, problematic. And then crookedness is amplified in Jiva Goswami's writing, same section of Bhakti Sandarbha. He makes reference to Duryodhana. So you all know. This is one you all know. I'm pretty confident you all know. Duryodhana was a bad guy. Duryodhana was the son of Dhritarashtra, the blind king. He was the eldest of 100 brothers, and he wanted the kingdom. He was so ambitious to get the kingdom, he attempted murder multiple times, without the detail, you all know. And he attempted to murder Bhima. He attempted to murder the Pandavas in the house of Lak. And, and so forth and so on. He was a bad guy. And he was so bad that he was determined that there would be war. Because he said, I can't live on the same planet with these Pandavas. It's war. It's them or me. There must be war. When Krishna came with a peace offer. So here's Krishna seated on the left side, special seat. Over there on the right side, that's the blind king Dhritarashtra. And when Krishna was invited into the royal assembly, Duryodhana had a plan. Crooked Duryodhana had a plan. One of the visits that Krishna made was this one. He decided, let me butter him up. Let me pretend that I like him. Because he's powerful, and if he likes me, and I like him, then that's going to add to my power during the battle. But he was already like, there's going to be a battle, so let me see if I can butter him up. So one of the things that he did is he made a plan to honor Krishna with a royal reception And he, in the course of his speech in his public forum, he invited Krishna to dine with him, to have lunch with him. And Krishna's reply, there are two reasons why one might eat. One is if you're hungry. I'm not hungry. The second reason why one might eat is even if you're not hungry, you might eat something just because of love. And it's true. One may eat something out of love. So in this case, there's no love. Because your animosity for the Pandavas, Bhima and Arjuna in particular, is so egregious. There's no love for me because there's animosity towards them. And so, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go have lunch where there's love. So where did he go? Vidura. He went to Vidura's home. Vidura, as far as the royal assembly was concerned, he was on the outside because his mother was Shudrani. And so he wasn't part of the royal family. He wasn't treated like a member of the royal family, although he's very wise. So he went to Vidura's home. You know what happened. Vidura was out of station at the time, but his wife was so excited to have the opportunity to serve Krishna, but she's poor. So she brought some bananas. But when she served the bananas, she was so excited, she peeled the bananas and gave him the banana peels. And Krishna ate the banana peels. Yummy. And then when Vidura came back and heard what happened, no. And Krishna said, no, the banana peels were great because it was offered with love. Therefore, appetite, hunger can be there, or eating can be there when there's love. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. You all know the verse, Bhagavad Gita. So because she offered with love, Krishna accepted. And he liked it. He didn't like so much the banana peels, but the love with which it was offered. That was the ingredient. So these are some references supporting the statement that Jiva Goswami wants to write in Bhakti Sandarbha about simplicity or straightforwardness. And when that's there, bhakti is there. When that's not there, there's no bhakti. And when there is bhakti, there's 9 stages of bhakti. Now, some of you that have been around for a little bit, you probably know the answer to this quiz question. You ready for a quiz question? It's pretty simple. What's of the 9 stages of bhakti, what's the first of the 9 stages? Huh? Curiosity. Close. What in Sanskrit, what is it? Shraddha. What does Shraddha mean? Do you know the meaning? Faith. Faith. Adau Shraddha. So there it is. That's how bhakti begins, with preliminary faith. But supposing you don't have preliminary faith, what do you have? Well, you don't have bhakti. You may have a semblance that this is this abhas. It may look like, but it's not what real bhakti is. Like Duryodhana, he's a crooked man. It wasn't bhakti towards Krishna. It's just like butter him up and put him in my pocket. Because I treated him nicely, so he'll treat me nicely. Do something to get something. Fruitive work. Crooked, no bhakti. And therefore, the first of these principles is crookedness. This is now this section of Bhakti Sandarbha is where first some definition of bhakti is given. And then, along with the definition of what bhakti is, it's helpful to understand bhakti by understanding what bhakti isn't. So what's not bhakti? So on the screen, that's the first of not bhakti has two main categories. One is instead of performing activities according to the codes of dharma, there's adharma or sin. In simple terms, in English terms, sin, adharma. And those that are adharmic, in principle, they can do anything. And and a second quality besides adharma or sin is offense. Like, for example, all of us, we're engaged in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. We would do many other things, but that's one thing we all share. It's the sadhana of chanting the holy name. Why? It's in scripture. You all know the verse. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama Eva Kevalam. Palo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyata. That the chanting of the holy name, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the scriptural reference, but emphasis upon chanting of the holy name. Just like when you all came in, there was a little kirtan for 15 minutes, because it's part of our life, an essential part of our life. Harir Nama. And when we're chanting of the holy name, we're all chanting some degree, more or less, but we're also taught beware, be very cautious as far as you can to avoid offense in chanting. There's chanting with offense, nam aparad, and there's clearing stage of chanting, and then there's this abhas stage, and then there's the pure stage, shuddhanam. So we're meant to target shuddhanam, and that includes and requires become free from offense. Now, supposing someone isn't there yet, most of us aren't there yet. So then we have to be aware of what the offenses are. This list is going to show you a list of 5 items according to Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha. They're obstacles on the path of bhakti that make it difficult to continue bhakti, and one can fall from bhakti. So, question: what are the causes for people that begin bhakti and then later desist? Is there a cause? Yes. And Jiva Goswami is identifying what are those causes. So it's good if you know where the curves in the road are. Sometimes it's really sharp curves and it says, slow, or a flashing light or something. So this is the flashing light. These are 5 prominent consequences of offense, starting with crookedness. And the way that he describes it is this crookedness has a root, just like, a weed. You can try to clip the weed at the top, but when the root is still in the soil, wait a while. The weed's going to grow again. You have to pull the root. So what is crookedness rooted in? According to Jiva Goswami, is rooted in pride. And the foundation of pride is our dear friend false ego. That most subtle of all of the material elements that covers every living entity that appears in the material world. We'll say it the other way. When living entities appear in the material world, the first covering that covers the living entity is false ego. Not ego, because there's a real self, but the false sense of self covers the soul. And, then other dark things are added upon that. And one of those dark things is this crookedness. It's rooted in pride, which the support of pride is false ego. What I'm doing here is, I'll just step back a little bit. Jiva Goswami is like a spiritual scientist. There's things that you can see, and there's things that you may not see, but they're there. Like, things that are subtle. A mind, intelligence, and false ego. No one has seen those three, but we have the experience of the effect, and one can identify what's mind, what is intelligence, what's false ego, although you've never seen them. But you can see the symptoms, and the symptoms manifest in observable, measurable speech and behavior. And then the opposite, where there's no false ego, that's pure bhakti and Shuddhanam. And that sounds nice. It is nice. That's where we want to go. We have to avoid these 5 obstacles, and one of them, as bhakti begins with faith, so lack of faith in the scripture is one of the causes of a fall down from bhakti. A little sharing. Stories are helpful. Maybe 2 weeks ago, I received a letter from a devotee from somewhere, USA. And they're an accomplished, bright person. Their profession is their counselors. They help people that are going through stressful situations, and they help them through their stressful situations. By profession, it's kind of like they're good at it. It's their nature. The problem is they're not pure bhaktas yet, and one of the reasons is when they read the scripture, there are things that are easy, and there's things that are not easy. You know what I mean? And this particular devotee's analysis is those areas that are for me most difficult, they go completely against what I learned in 8th grade science or what I learned in my academic training, because they're smart. They don't have a PhD, but they have a master's degree, and they're smart people, very smart people. And they learned a lot of smart stuff, and that smart stuff doesn't align itself with Bhagavad Gita, or Bhagavad Gita says something else, and the Bhagavatam says something else on top of that. So they have a hard time. They're irritated at times in reading Prabhupada's books, and they know that's not right. So that 3 years later into their devotional service, they're still with devotional service. They didn't fall away, but they had the lack of faith in scripture, ashraddha. But then this is how this particular devotee reconciled. They were like, so the reconciliation was, there's a place for modern education, modern, empiric knowledge. There's a place for it. And there's a place for spiritual knowledge. And the spiritual knowledge trumps that academic knowledge or material knowledge. And if there isn't a 1-to-1 correlation, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, for them, that was how they made that resolution. It's not like which is superior, but how to place what parking lot do I put this academic stuff that I learned? Where do I put it? What's its proper place? And now she's feeling relief that this lack of faith in Scripture is now resolved for her. It doesn't mean that everything that material knowledge is right, but it has a place because some things are verifiable through material science. There are lots of things material science can't explain. We went through this at the Japa retreat. Like, for example, what is it about an apple tree that tells it to take the ingredients from the earth and make apples? There's no science that explain. You can indicate behaviors through science, but you can't. They didn't go to apple seed school to learn how to take the ingredient from the soil. It's a natural phenomena, and the one way to describe natural phenomena is it's just combination of elements. That's all. There's nothing more than that's all there is. That's all there is. If you're a mechanistic scientist, that's all there is. Matter and combinations of matter. That's it. End of story. We may not know which combination. That's okay. That's all it is. We're working on it. Post data check. So there's a place for material knowledge. That's it is. So, but that if that causes an irritation in one's faith in Scripture, that's a problem. And there's lots of far out things in Scripture. Stick around a while, you find out a lot of far out things from Scripture. And maybe some of them aren't really from Scripture, they're just folklore. Stick around a while, you'll hear some folklore. But that which is in Scriptures, particularly Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, is not folklore. It's not fiction. We may not understand it, that's okay. It's not fiction. And one who has faith in principle in Scripture, that's the path that one can follow to come to the stage of Shuddha Bhakti and Shuddha Nam. Offenseless chanting. But supposing one doesn't have, or there's a lack of faith in Scripture, or the deity, or Prashadam, or Vaishnava Sangha, or any other spiritual entity, spiritual thing. I don't have faith. I don't have strong faith, insufficient faith. And that's a cause for falling down. Then there's a third. There's 5. These are, just to repeat, these are symptoms, byproducts of offense. And 5, there are many, 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 and 5 that are prominent that he identifies according to Scripture. Here is number 3. The Sanskrit is much longer. Bhagavan nishtha chavakastu antarabhyunivesha. Absorption of things that detract one from firm faith in Bhagavan. So first is faith in Scripture, and then there's faith in Bhagavan. Bhagavan nishtha, firm faith in Bhagavan. Just take the word Bhagavan and just say God. I don't have. I'm absorbed in things that detract one from Bhagavan. Now, we all have things that we have affinity for. Some of those things that we have affinity for that are distracting, we've let them go. They're no longer important to us. We don't cherish and value them. And there's some other things that we cherish and value. And absorption in those things that detract one from Bhagavan, that's a cause of fall down. Or it detracts one from firm faith. And let it go. If you let it go, that's where it's going to go. It causes fall down. That's what this whole section of Bhakti Sandarbha is Jiva Goswami tracing the stages or steps or impetus for falling down. So one more time. Behind it is either sin or deliberate violation of what Scripture says of what proper dharma is, deliberate or offense, and 10 offenses against the holy name. So one of them is faith in Scripture. Too much affinity for those things that are obstructions in our taking shelter of Bhagavan. Two more actually. Bhakti saitilyam, that is slackening of bhakti. So I may be fine with those first three, but over a period of time, this slackening, complacency, and that's a cause of fall down. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes about this extensively. Most of you know who is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Prabhupada's spiritual master's father. Bhaktivinoda, one of our great previous acharyas. So he wrote extensively about taking shelter. You all know the Bhagavad Gita verse, 1866. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. So that's number one verse and conclusion of the entire Bhagavad Gita, or essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Take shelter of Krishna. Mam ekam sharanam. In 3 words. Mam ekam sharanam. Take full shelter in Krishna. So volumes were written by Bhaktivinoda on sharanagati, taking shelter. And one may take shelter, and then after some time slacken in submission in taking shelter. So that means shelter taking is ongoing. It's not once upon a time I was very enthusiastic and I took shelter. Haribol. That's nice. And then what? And if there's slackening in that taking shelter, that's a problem. And it leads to further problems. It can lead to falling down from bhakti, not falling in a mud puddle, but falling from bhakti, falling from that trajectory that takes one nearer and dearer to Krishna. And all these 4 are connected to this last one, that is pride. Sva bhaktya adi krita manitvam. The syllable at the end, tvam, means having the quality of, or something-ness. Tvam. And manitvam is thinking of oneself. Mana. Manitvam. Swa bhakti adi krita manitvam. Thinking very proudly about your accomplishments in bhakti. Would you like some examples? Yes? So supposing somebody prepared prasadam for all of you. Probably somebody prepared prasadam for all of you. And supposing the prasadam is really good. And that person that prepared prasadam, they're really anxious to see how much you're enjoying it, and even more so, your appreciation for them for what a nice feast you cooked. Taking pride in one's bhakti. Or somebody's good at singing. So somebody may praise the person who's good at singing, saying, "Oh, such a nice kirtan." And they think, yes. That's an example. Now, something that's done for the pleasure of Krishna, and I'm interested in taking credit for me, which is meant for the pleasure of Krishna, but it's, kind of me and Krishna. It's a different mantra. Me, Krishna, 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 me. So pride is the foundation. Like, one more time. Pride is resting upon false ego. And as pride is resting on false ego, these other four above pride, they're resting in pride, they're rooted in pride. And that is, I'm meant to be the enjoyer. That's material consciousness. Krishna is the enjoyer, spiritual consciousness. And I'm meant to be the enjoyer. I'm Krishna's competitor. At least something should come to me, right? And, I'll do some night service but something should come to me. That's the mantra. That's the consciousness. And so these other things, this crookedness and lack of faith in scripture, etc., etc., it's rooted in false ego. It's resting on pride. And they're just extensions of pride. I'm at the center. Not true. That's Maya. That's illusion. Here's a little bit more, and we'll try to end. This is also from Vishnu Dharma. We referenced Vishnu Dharma already. Truth is blocked by 100 obstacles. Austerity is blocked by 1,000 obstacles. Bhakti to Govinda is blocked by 10,000 obstacles if one is insincere. You're not going to get there. You won't even get started. The block is so strong. Now, there are other words besides krit, this crookedness that we saw before. Here's another Sanskrit word that's very similar to crooked. Riju is pretension. And there's Riju beer, that's unpretentious or straightforward and simple. Here is the reference from Canto 3, Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, this is Jiva Goswami explaining, what sincerity is, or simplicity is, and its opposite, crookedness. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by the spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him. That's the straightforward and simple person. For protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. Though if you're not a virtuous person, who wants to take shelter of someone else? I can do it. I'm strong, I'm perfect, powerful, and happy. I'm the monarch of all I survey, etc. With it, false ego. I'm going to end with this. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the painting. There's more slides, but time doesn't permit. The whole bhakti process can be summarized as follows. Ready? The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. And the result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of material desires, etc. Same as what's in Bhagavad Gita. Does somebody know the Bhagavad Gita verse where Krishna says this? Brahmabhuta prasanatma na sochati na kangsati. Sochati, kangsati, hankering, lamenting. Gone. Cessation of material desires. Cessation of material desire. Yay. Supposing you're not a Hare Krishna devotee and you want to have cessation of material desire. Good luck. Well, I don't want to be a Hare Krishna devotee. I want to be a Buddhist. Because Buddha says, those of you that know, Buddhism says the root cause of suffering is desire. The root cause of suffering is desire. The way to become free from suffering, become free from desire. How do you do that? Listen carefully. Two things. Very simple. Live a life of goodness, starting with nonviolence, ahimsa. It's one of the items in what Krishna says in chapter 13. One of the items of knowledge is ahimsa. And then the other thing is mindfulness, meditation. And what's the purpose of meditation? It's to be in the moment. Because all there is, this is teaching of Buddhism, all there is consciousness is moment to moment, because the consciousness the moment before is gone, and the consciousness that is the future hasn't happened yet. So all there is consciousness is the moment. It doesn't say there's a soul. He doesn't say there isn't a soul. He just says consciousness is the moment. So practice being in the moment, mindfulness. Be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment. Practice it, practice it, practice it. And when you become really proficient, guess what? You can go on the other side of the moment. And what's on the other side of the moment? Nirvana. What's nirvana? Cessation of material existence. What's there? Nothing. So what exists? Nothing. Yummy, huh? But that's how you become free from desire, which is the root cause of suffering, is those two things. Mode of goodness, headed by nonviolence, ahimsa, and be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment, go beyond the moment. Nirvana, enlightenment, nothingness. Sorry, that's not how one goes beyond desire. But this is how one goes right here on the screen. It's a realization beyond material desire, cessation of all material desires, comes as a result of feeling a satisfaction within, a contentment, a realization of who we really are. And there's a contentment because Satchitananda, part of the Supreme Satchitananda. And that's who we really are. And then there isn't any hankering and lamenting for what you're not, because you're connected with who you are. You're full. Nice. That's the essence. This is Vishwanath. Even if the neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, because they commit offenses to the holy name, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Problem, right? They can, however, get in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the return home back to Godhead will depend on the instructions revealed of the revealed scriptures directed by a realized devotee. Now, there's more to this presentation, but, we've already gone beyond our time. And you're being a very patient audience. You haven't walked out yet. But the attempt was, let's go back to the beginning, to describe this characteristic that is found in Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam as well, a spiritual quality, a quality of the divine, a quality of goodness, a quality of knowledge, it's simplicity, being very straightforward. So that's a characteristic we should strive for. And in many cases, we are already. And in many cases, we're a little fuzzy. less than what it could be, should be. So but how to get there? It's bhakti. And it's a quality, a striving for that quality helps us move on forward on the path of bhakti. So that's all of us, right? We're all in the same boat, and we have a captain. Krishna is the captain. And then he has persons that guide us from that position of the captain. That's our spiritual masters, starting with our founder Acharya. And those that align themselves with our founder Acharya, they're good guides for us. And then keep going on that path with a simple heart, straightforward, no crookedness. Okay, look at the clock. It's 6:35. 7:35. 7:35. So let's see if there's some discussion. It's nice to see the number of persons that have come. Thank you all for coming. Let's see if there's some comments and discussion. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for making our stress us and please accept our humble obeisance and all relationship with our part.
Keep going.
Maharaj,
I can hear you.
thank you of the counselor couple. I think it resonated very well with me. It's whatever we do. I personally am finding it a little hard to draw, watertight compartment between what I do in my professional life versus what I do in my
Devotional life.
Yeah, the bhakti, etc. And we as human beings are pretty much product of the habits and the time and the energies and the people that we come across. And some of us happen to work in Midtown Manhattan, and the energy is absolutely different.
You're a conditioned soul.
Yes. So what would your advice be, Maharaj, if someone is working in an environment where there's constant conversation about money, right? Growing money and alpha and risk management, total cost of ownership. So it's all related numbers. So what would your advice be in such an environment? You're still continuing to, strengthen your bhakti and augment your bhakti.
You're asking a tough question, but a practical question. What does Krishna say? Some advice is you get a question like this, you go to Bhagavad Gita. Guess what? Krishna gives advice. And what's that advice? Perform your prescribed duty and always think of me. So the always think of you is what you do inside. Perform your prescribed duty is what you do outside. Now, what you do outside is what you described. That's one of the things if you're in Midtown Manhattan, etc. So, that's a stage of your life. It's not who you are. And you have what you've done before has taken you to that stage of your life. And, it may not be so tasteful. And it may have its contamination and mind disturbing, mind conditioning influences. And I don't want to be conditioned like that because I want to be like this. So perform prescribed duty and always think of Krishna. Or another verse, you're entitled to karma evadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana. You're entitled to perform your prescribed duty. You're not entitled to results. So that's the Bhagavad Gita. My recommendation is continue your bhakti practices so that they become so prominent that you're carrying that with you even in that other environment. And at some point in time, at some point in time someone's going to notice, hey, this person's a little different. They may not. They may just go blah blah blah. But they may so they're going to ask you, what's with you? They have different ways of. You mind if I ask? You seem to be, something a little different, and tell me what's going on. I travel a lot. I don't do the Midtown Manhattan business thing. I do, but I travel a lot, and people will sometimes ask. Sometimes they don't ask. They're just like, but sometimes people will ask. The questions for me go, do you mind if I ask, are you a Buddhist monk? And I like giving the answer, no, I'm not a Buddhist monk. I'm a Krishna monk. Oh. And then what's a Krishna monk? So I get to, but that's, I'm dressed this way. That's why they ask that question. But sometimes with international travel, I'm dressed like everybody else. And I'm doing my Hare Krishna thing, dressed like everybody else. I've had this happen like 4 times. Stewardesses ask, what's with you? Everyone else is da 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 da. You're just doing your thing. What's with you? What's up? Tell me. And and then I ask, you really want to know? Yeah, I really want to know. Said you asked for it, so then that's a preamble to say what, depending upon the person and their nature, and you can give an answer. So you have an opportunity in Midtown Manhattan to influence, to bhakti-ize some people in the workplace. Carry some small books with you in case somebody asks, hey, what's up with you? Maybe something about, diet, food choices. Maybe something, to have a few small books. And then, let me give you one of these. Introduction to Bhagavad Gita, whatever it is, whatever, depending upon the person. And suppose they don't ask, that's okay. You're giving, if your consciousness is, I'm giving bhakti to unknowingly to everyone, and some persons may receive it knowingly. And that's nice. And you may find somebody in the workplace that's, curious, and they don't just want money, money, money and talk about numbers. They may want an alternative, but they're like you. They did the preparation, and here they are. They may be just like, I just want to go further up the ladder and get more money. Many are probably like that. And they're sort of not so incorrigible. But there may be some others. And you're there to influence the whole spectrum. You're bhakti emissary. That's easier said than done. But that's the principle. And at a certain point in time, you may want to check out and say, I don't know if I want this kind of lifestyle. And then you start thinking, what are some other alternatives with the training and background that I have, and the job market being what it is, and I don't have so many options, but you start pondering and then perhaps preparing, and then you can change inside and outside also. But for the time being, what I said is a path to move on. I want to be a little representative of Krishna here in Midtown Manhattan. And it may not make a dent, but let me be that messenger anyways. In Krishna's instrument. Nimitta matram bhavya savya sachin. Others in our audience that would like to share or discuss?
Does meditation helps you to get into nothingness?
Okay, I heard your question. Okay.
And should be like focus on God, or it should be like,
Oh, you know the answer to
Yeah.
that question.
you want me to repeat, or
Huh?
you want me to repeat the question?
No, I heard the question.
Yeah.
How did meditation help you get into bhakti? That was the first. And then is that meditation, should it be on God? That was the second.
Or yeah.
Okay.
Or open mind. Yeah.
Okay. The easier one, it's like super short is, of course, it has to be on God, or there is a source of everything. And meditation means contemplating the source of everything, not, a candle or a spot on the wall or nothingness or somethingness. It's not. That's not meditation. That which from which everything comes. Brahma jigyasa, Sanskrit. That which is the source of everything, and be inquisitive about that. That's where meditation is. And yes, the principle of meditation is not satisfying and fulfilling and meaningful unless and until. So, yes, but it helps move in the direction of bhakti, but without a representative of bhakti, it's not going to go into bhakti. It doesn't, it's not, organically it's going to go to bhakti if you just do a bunch of meditation. It has to have association with someone carrying bhakti to go into bhakti. You have to have someone that's going to pass on the bhakti disease, the bhakti virus, to get the virus. You have to have that association. So that's that's both questions. So yes, there has to be Bhagavan, and yes, bhakti, the meditation can help, but it also can be, a distraction. Thinking distraction meaning that's spiritual. Meditation isn't per se, it's not spiritual. So to put it bluntly, it's material. It's just, let's say, a businessman, he's meditating on money, 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 money. He's in samadhi. Even when asleep, he's in samadhi. So fixing the mind is the principle of meditation on what? So that's where bhakti, that's where association of one who's carrying bhakti becomes important. Because then you can, upon what answer is provided. And then there's the method, effective method. That's also through association. Okay. Anybody else? Yes. Back behind you over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, when the things are happening so favorable, it is
Somehow the sound system is muffled. Could you do without the microphone? I probably can hear you better.
Yes, Maharaj.
You got a good voice. Speak up.
Thank you. So when the things are favorable, it is very easy to be faithful, friendship, relationships. But
But
when things are not happening, it's not the same case. So I know this is not ideal situation. We should be the same, favorable or not favorable. But it is very hard. When it is not favorable, we not be the same faithful as when the things are happening favorable. Maybe you can.
well, it's simple. Don't make it complicated. Keep it simple. That's a good rule of thumb. Simplicity. So, who is it that you're trying to please? Constitutionally, all souls are servants. If they're not serving God, they're serving another entity. They're serving their family, their wife, their children, their company, their dog, their senses. We're servants constitutionally. So let that service go, because it's a relationship. Let the service go to that entity that can supply you or any one of us, with rasa, with full happiness and satisfaction. And that one entity that the experience is full is the Supreme, Raso Vaisaha. The absolute truth is rasa. So that's a philosophical answer, but it's also practical. You will not be happy trying to make others happy or finding yourself happy by, calibrating what's going to make others happy without that consideration of what's going to make Krishna happy. Let Krishna smile. And if Krishna smiles, you're happy. And others may or may not be, because they're going through whatever they're going through. That's okay. They made their choices. They're going through what they're going through. I want to make my happiness with Krishna. And by doing so, others will vicariously also become happy because you're a happy person, because you're connected. Simple for the simple. Too simple, right? Can you have a little bit of complicated, please? Don't make it complicated. It's simple. Unnecessarily don't make it complicated. Life is already, has its complication. Don't make it more. Just focus on the goal and strive towards that goal, and you'll get there. And then others, the wake that you create by that moving along that path is going to benefit others and maximally help others become also happy. It's true. Okay. One more question and then we're going to close up. No more question. Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Maharaji. My question is there any difference in being spiritual or being religious, or both are same terminologies? Sometimes when I browse, I see some differences in both definitions. So just want to understand, is there any difference?
I think I can hear you better without the microphone. Because I don't go into it. I just, yes, you have a strong voice. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. My question is there any difference in being spiritual versus being religious?
Yes. Dharma and paradharma. You know the meaning? Dharma is religious. And many people that engage in dharma, what's their objective? Artha. What's the objective of artha? Kama. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Purushartha, those four. Now, is there a distinction between dharma in that sense of dharma and paradharma? Yes. One leads to elevation into higher planets and higher piety and higher facilities, etc. And the other leads to detachment from all of that and attachment to the Supreme. There's a world of difference. The material world and the spiritual world of difference. Religiosity is dharma. And all religions have it. Doesn't, varieties, but they all have. There's some do's and there's some do nots, injunctions and prohibitions. And that makes up the religion. And some do it this way and some do it that way. And there's some, but the purpose is dharma. But for what purpose, Artha? I get something. Supposing there's no I get something in it, well, that's rare. But the principle Is that's a distinction between the two. Clear? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.
Jai.